welcome to Adobe Live. I'm Ashley Batts, and I'm with the Tiny Atlas Quarterly and photographer Tyson Wheatley. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We've also got some chat folks. Looking at everyone here now. Hello, everyone. Some people that were in the last segment, thanks for joining. So we have a full day planned today. So if we could take a look at our schedule real quick, by any chance. Yes, this week on Adobe Live, we just had Pay earlier with Michael. That's us at 11. And then after this, we're at 1 o'clock. You guys are going to be on again too, right?
We'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Back. Hosted by Ben, but, you know, it's not going to be me, so it's fine.
We'll
Anyways,
we'll see.
Thanks for joining. We've got some challenges today. We've got a chat and win, which will be in about 30 minutes, and you can have this wonderful notebook that I'll have Emily explain if you want to explain.
Oh, right now?
I would love to know more about it.
Sure. So this is a notebook that we made with a company called All Swell, and they do the notebooks. I'll just open it. That are both lined and unlined. And the founder, Laura, also does really great creative workshops on both writing and drawing, and they're really cool. So one side of the notebook is lined, and then the other side is blank. And these are photos of mine from two different locations, and they were also sort of the themes for our first two trips, where we went to Tofino in British Columbia and then to Tahiti, and Tyson joined us in Tahiti. You'll see some photos of his later, not today, from Tahiti. And we worked with...
Maybe you will.
We can show them today if we really want
I
to.
can't wait. And then we worked with illustrator Jim Mezzi, who's an incredible illustrator on items that people would want to travel with. And so we asked people on social media, like, what is like super important for them to have to travel with, and then he drew those items.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
yes, you can be the proud
Beautiful.
owner of that
Yes.
if you chat with me a little bit later. But for now, I'm here with Tyson Wheatley, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself, talk about your work a little bit, all that fun stuff.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Tyson. I'm a photographer, freelance photographer. I live in New York City. My background is in journalism, so I wasn't always a photographer. In fact, I'm relatively new to photography professionally. I've only been doing it just short of 4 years now.
Whoa.
So in my previous life, I was journalist. I studied journalism in school. I went and worked at CNN and had a career there, a 12-year career there on the editorial side, and then made the leap over to photography, mainly because of Instagram, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'm part of the Instagram revolution that turned regular people, or people who maybe didn't realize that photography was a calling, sort of gave people like me an opportunity to get seen, have their work in front of people, and then as opportunities started to come through that, then I sort of took the leap, and now I've been doing that, and now I'm here. I'm here. I made it to the
Someone named
Summit.
Adam Heller says, "Hi, Tyson."
Hi, Tyson.
Hi, Adam.
Someone else
Hi,
wants
Adam.
to keep abreast of the World Cup scores.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah, you guys were not
rest
watching the World
assured.
Cup, so if something
Yeah.
really exciting
Oh, man.
happens, let us know.
Yeah.
That's actually good, Eric. We're actually going to give you updates as time goes on.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Yeah.
Tim's giving you guys Tyson's website.
Oh, nice.
My website is hasn't probably been updated in about 6 months, so
I think it's time.
I think that's every photographer.
I think
Right.
it's okay.
Always,
That's
right?
all right.
I'm always like uploading, deleting things. I don't know. Maybe I have too much work on there. We can talk about that at some point.
yeah, we can talk about
Do a
that.
We
Yeah.
can.
I feel like
can.
every day I feel guilty because I haven't update. I feel like I should be keeping it more fresh,
Yeah.
but
But is Instagram still your medium that you update a bunch and
Yeah.
are active with?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I mean, my strategy for Instagram has really evolved over the years. I think now I look at it almost like a website.
Yeah.
I treat it like it's like a professional portfolio. Whereas even just 4 or 5 years ago, it was very much like, here's what I'm doing right now. So I was listening to a little bit of Pay's before this one, the photographer right before, and I've known Pay for years, but we met like through Instagram like 6-7 years ago.
Wow.
And I always admired that I felt like she was one of the last people that I know on Instagram that kind of felt like she just followed through on that. Like everything was instant, everything was on her mobile phone. I think just recently, so she's right over there actually. Right. So maybe that strategy has changed for her, or maybe it's still the same, I don't know.
Tim said it's always a good sign if your website isn't up to date. It means you have a lot of clients.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that
And somebody else said they prefer
Don't
watching
fret.
live streams rather than the World Cup.
There's
So,
definitely a happy medium, I think.
I think if your work is strong on your website, that's the most important thing,
Yeah.
rather than how recent.
Wow,
it is.
someone's watching from Abu Dhabi.
Yay,
Hello,
cool.
Daryl.
Hey, Daryl. It's exciting to see everyone here.
Yeah.
I think
I wanted to have you two introduce yourselves
Okay.
as well, actually.
Sure.
If that would be great.
You want to go first?
sure. Hi. I kind of don't know where to look because I don't want to look at this big monitor.
Look at that
that's up
camera.
our
Look at
face.
that
I'm
camera
gonna
right
look at
there.
the camera. Hi, Lumix. I'm Emily Nathan. I'm the founder of Tiny Atlas Quarterly, which is a lifestyle travel magazine, and then now sort of a micro agency and experiential travel community creator. And I'm a commercial photographer by trade. I worked editorially for a long time, and then I shot mostly lifestyle advertising work for clients like Apple and Google and Adobe. And after I had my son, I sort of needed to do some new work, which in photography world, many of you will know, is called a test. And I decided to do this test in Montana. And I did this big, huge test and spent way too much money on it. And then I was like, maybe this is an idea for a magazine, because in editorial, we felt that we often had like this set shot list, but the photographer's work, the pictures Tyson will choose when he comes back from the Azores, wouldn't necessarily be the ones that would get into Travel and Leisure or into Condé Nast Traveler, because it was more personal and there were more people in it. And so I felt that was sort of missing. And then when I switched to lifestyle advertising productions, it seemed like we would do all this great production, but this huge team of people that worked on it was never really credited. And so it was sort of a mashup of that. And pretty quickly after I started, Deb joined as a photography director. And I knew Deb from when she was a photo producer is what photo
That's
editors
what they
are sort of
called us.
called
Yeah.
Yeah.
at Apple. So maybe you can introduce
Yeah.
Sure.
Tell me more.
Hi. Excuse me. I'm Deb Heary. I'm a photo editor, producer, art buyer. We come with many names depending on the industry that you're in. And I have been a photo editor for 18 years, I just figured out recently. Started out in magazines in Boston at Fast Company magazine, then moved to New York, worked at Real Simple, and then moved out to the West Coast, and I was an art buyer and producer at Apple for a couple of years, working on in the internal design team at Apple, where we produced all the photography for packaging, the retail stores, Steve Jobs' keynote addresses. So I really consider working there as kind of a graduate school for being a producer, because of the volume of work that we were doing and the quality of the designers I was working with, and really taught me a lot about, and it gave me great opportunities to work with amazing photographers. And during my time there, I was working on a project. We needed lifestyle imagery for packaging for a new software application for photography. And I needed to source tons of real wedding photography, real people, right?
Wow.
And I knew Emily had done some of that, and actually,
The funny is because I had shot like 2 weddings in my life, but I was like, I have one that might work.
I actually found
And it
her
worked?
through
It was the back of the first Aperture box.
Aperture, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, back in the, yeah. So I actually knew another photographer who's a friend of Emily's from Real Simple, and she also shot weddings in addition to all her editorial and
Sure.
commercial work. And she said, you should talk to Emily. Anyway, long story. Emily then went on to work at Apple doing assignment work, and I had a few kids, and I have 3 now, but after I had my second child, really wanted to get back into the business of what I enjoy doing, and Emily had just started this magazine, and I came in to start help editing photos. I would literally come in for a few hours a week and just sit down with her and edit stories. That's all I did. As I've had more time, I've begun producing projects again in Tahiti, and whenever we send a group of photographers somewhere, I'm doing the advance work to
You're the muscle.
try to be. I'm the advance planner. I don't often go on the trips, which is
Sorry,
fine. It's fine. I actually don't mind. It's okay. It's just,
We're like, we have to stay home. Tyson, can you please go?
yeah.
visit
Can you
palaces for
go
us?
to palaces in India? But
Like,
it's
you might.
I was wondering how long it was gonna take for that to come up.
What?
They're like, oh, we have to stay at home and we get to
It's just
go
5
to all
minutes.
these amazing places.
I know, I should have a counter for
yeah.
when that
No,
shows
it's
up.
okay. It's all right, because I was talking to Emily about this yesterday. Since I do the advance work and I am trying to anticipate as much as I possibly can before they go, and obviously I can't anticipate everything. I try, but I can't. When I get to see what they come back with, it's a really interesting experience for me as the armchair traveler, which I would call
I
myself.
love that.
That if what they come back with can make me feel like I was there,
Yeah.
that's the sign. I actually get like a physical kind of reaction,
So
like
great.
wow,
Ready.
stops me in my tracks, and then we can break down what those elements are. But not everyone can go to Jodhpur and Jaipur and Mumbai and the Azores and Tahiti and all the places that we send
Yeah.
people, or that they go and send work back to us. And so I'm part of that audience that I still love seeing the world. And so I think there's a place for people like me to get to experience the world through their eyes.
Totally. And I think that's a great segue to talk about how you work together with each other and with photographers like Tyson on sending people out. How do we look at making selects? How do we have that conversation about what moves you and what moved you when you were there? And
Okay.
I think we should
Yeah.
Sure.
Should we
go through a little
go
bit of a
through
selection
photos?
process.
Yeah,
Let's look at
somebody
some
just
pictures.
said, is there a graphic designer from India? What is it, Sanya?
Sanya.
Hi there.
Hi.
Trying to learn more about photography, and this seems very exciting.
Well, feel
So,
free to ask
yeah.
questions anytime. I'll be monitoring the chat over here, so I'll make sure to ask
Alright.
some questions once they come up, and let's go
Let's
through
pull
a
some
little
stuff
selection.
Sure.
So
Maybe-
you want to cue up what we're doing? What are we going to look at?
Sure.
Where did Tyson go? How many photos do we need to narrow it down to? I'm
Sure.
just curious.
So when we're producing issues for Tiny Atlas, we often
Open one.
form them around. I will, yeah. I'm just going to pull up Tiny Atlas for a minute,
Nice.
just so you can get a sense of what we're going for. We organize our issues around themes. And
Has that always been the case? Or is this
it's
a
at the beginning, I
Yeah.
think it was times of year.
Yeah.
Spring.
And then we did like, we did elements for one.
We did air, water, fire.
Nice.
And then we had like a city issue, and then right now we're on remote.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I saw the Maui story. Shout out to my boyfriend who's from Maui.
Nice.
there's Maui. That image of Oahu is actually Tyson's. Who's also been to Hawaii with us. Got to go to India,
Bummer.
Well, right. Let's see. I've been to India,
Tahiti.
Azores, and
What?
and I guess and Hawaii, Oahu. Yeah.
So we had the opportunity to send a photographer on a trip to India, to Rajasthan in particular, and it just so happened that we are planning an India issue
Awesome.
after remote.
This one?
Yes, because at the same time that we got, or close to when we had been talking to another travel company based in India called Kamalan about sending a group of photographers, and been working on doing that for a long time, and then also got this other opportunity. So we just kind of were like, we have an India issue because we have,
great.
and Dan Tom, who's joining us tomorrow, actually had plans to go to India as well. So we have a lot of India content coming, and we decided to ask Tyson if he'd like to go on this trip. And the company that invited us.
With about 3 weeks warning, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yes, but you
Yes.
said you really wanted to
But
go
it was
to India.
it was like a last. I did. I wanted to go to the thing that you were planning.
Right.
You guys were planning a trip. I wanted-
Oh boy.
Here it goes.
There we go. No, it's good. We're good.
no. I mean, it all worked out.
It did.
It all worked out. But
Well, here's Oahu.
We're going to talk about that
I'm
tomorrow.
just bringing it up for some context of like,
Oahu's
you
cool.
know,
We
this
had-
was like a, you know, this I wanted to go. An opportunity came up, but it was like it was pretty short turnaround.
It was.
So.
It was,
yeah.
and it was a exciting opportunity.
And so backing up from the magazine's perspective, are you guys sending him on very specific itineraries? Are you looking for
Right.
specific
So-
information and content?
Well, like originally when we started, the stories were all mine, and then people emailed and they were like, "Hey Emily, can I be in your magazine?" And I was like, "Sure." My husband was like, "You can't do that. This is supposed to be your promo piece." And I was like, "I can't
can't
run
shoot
a whole
everything."
magazine. I can't do a whole magazine." And then 6 years later, but. So people would pitch us ideas, but it's never been something where there's like a lot of blogs or things where people are just like, "Here's my finished product." And we were like, "Oh, no. We're gonna look at what you send, like a broad edit," and Deb and I would go through and really carefully try and craft a story, work with writers, there's a lot of illustration in the site, like custom illustration. Liz Mullally was the sort of founding art director with me on Tiny Atlas, and she's now just working on her own stuff, but she loved illustration, and so she definitely had the impetus to get that going, and we've definitely kept it up. You see with like the cover of the magazine.
Yeah,
we
it's
worked
gorgeous.
with an illustrator, Fern. I don't want to mangle her last name, so Fern, if you're watching. She did these illustrations, but just in the way that we work with an illustrator on, so we knew we had these different places in remote that we wanted to cover, and I saw some work. Fern actually emailed me just like some of those photographers would, and she was like, "Hey, can I be in your magazine?" And I was like, checked out her work, and it was really fun, and I was like, actually, we might have a project for you. And she had something with islands that were sort of like this, and so then we asked her to create custom illustrations that looked sort of like these little islands that we're going to go over.
It's great.
The background. But likewise, photographers will say like, "Hey, I'm going here," or I would notice that a photographer was spending like a bunch of time somewhere, and with editorial experience, like often for a magazine, like Tyson can tell you soon about his trip to the Azores or India, you'll have like 6 days or 4 days, and you just go quickly and you get out, and it's harder to make work in that way. And so when we started Tiny Atlas, people who were like Dan Tom actually like left his job and traveled in South America for a number of months, and then I think he kept like extending it, and I was like, "Hey Dan, let's do a story from something of yours from South America," because really spending time.
Totally.
And so then we would see what the content was that was our magazine theme for the time, and then really craft stories.
So in the case of what
But
we're
in this
chatting about
case, yeah.
today, are we looking at India photos?
We're going to be looking at India photos, and in this case, you asked about, did we have an itinerary? How did we create that? In this case, we were invited to send a photographer by a company that was working with Taj hotels in India, and basically these hotels are literally in palaces. And
Nice.
so it was a, yes.
This is a good one.
So the itinerary was planned. They had a guide, professional guides taking them to these places and access. You can probably talk more about it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we understand that not every photographer has that kind of access and those kind of resources. So we hoped that by showing you what came out of that trip for Tyson, there are things we can talk about that any photographer, personal or professional, could apply to making better pictures. So
We haven't gone through a selection process yet. This is actually the first time you guys are going to be talking about the photos you took.
We actually have, that's something else we can talk about, is that in addition to the magazine that's on our website, we have an Instagram account, and something that we've taken advantage of recently because it's time intensive and takes a lot of work to put together these issues. The story feature on Instagram has given us another way to show content more often when we're sending people to interesting places.
Is
So
anyone's phone?
it's on my phone, but
Or we have it here too.
I was just going to say that, so we have looked at these pictures already with story in mind.
Oh, cool.
And now what we were planning to do today is talk about looking at them now for the magazine.
Yeah.
And how that changes our perspective and what we might pick.
Yeah. And I would love for you to chat about the photos. I don't know if you gave them a certain edit already, or what your thought process is once you take the photos and then give them to a client like a magazine.
Yeah, sure. Well, it changes actually depending on the client and the project, but typically I like to give everything. I like to do a selection process on my own first, and then typically I'll give a light treatment. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and fully edit everything if I'm feeling if I have enough time and if I'm feeling really confident and good about the images, then I'm just going to go ahead and try to make it as complete as possible. So in this case, I think most of what I sent, it was somewhere in between, either like fully edited, ready to go, and then like here's a bunch of extras that like I think are pretty good, but like they weren't my favorites, but you might like them. So, I don't want to overwhelm. I just don't want to hand over all the files, because I feel like that's maybe too much, because you're shooting like 200, 300, 400 images a day. So I that's typically how it goes. I give it like an initial
Pass.
broad, like here's the ones I think are good, then I hand them over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I'm
that's
just going through, Ashley,
Yes. Great.
on Instagram, the stories that we did. So we have someone at Tiny Atlas, Lindsay, who's like backpacking somewhere fabulous and not watching this, but she works with us on putting these all together. So it's a whole other process too, because people are like, hey, we want to do a takeover on Tiny Atlas, and we're like, well, show us your work when you come back, and then we'll do an edit, and then ask photographers questions, and find out, just do the journalism sort of quick backstory on where everything is, and then put together either, a series of days on story or whatever. But they, everything ideally is vertical, very tall vertical, and story gives you a lot more leeway, but the magazine has slightly different approach than our Instagram. But our Instagram is really close in terms of vibe, where there's a lot of travel magazines where the magazine is more like personal, interactive, editorial, but then the Instagram's just like drone photo, you know,
Yeah.
or they're just like pictures from a skyline and there's no people. Like one thing you'll notice about Tiny Atlas is there's a lot of people because travel is people, and I think it's hard to take nice pictures of people. There's a lot of complications, especially if you're traveling somewhere like India. India has, I think, 17 or 19 official languages. So if you look at the bills of money in India, there's like, it's translated into all of those languages. So when we traveled to Tamil Nadu with Kamalan, like they had, Kamalan is based in India, but then they had additional local guides from the region so that when we walk down the street, we saw someone interesting, you can use sort of international language of smiles, which Tyson's really good at, but then there's also like, hey, can we like take your picture? And is this okay? Also, like, what am I seeing? Like when you go somewhere like in Western Europe, you kind of know what you're seeing, like when you're walking around on the streets. And when you're in India, you're like, what is happening? You know, sometimes, you know, sometimes you know what's happening, but there's a lot of things that aren't obvious immediately. And I'd be interested to hear some of the stories that Tyson has from his trip, which they had guides that, you know, it just is a way into a local place.
So we'll go into that, but we have a chat and win in about 20 seconds for the amazing notebook, and I hope I win.
I feel like I'm on, what was the thing with the, where they sell things on TV?
Oh, QVC,
QVC.
right? There it is. Oh my gosh. So in literally five seconds, we're gonna have a minute where
How does this work?
you talk in the chat, and then there's an algorithm that chooses a winner. So it's very unbiased.
Oh, here.
But I'm hoping for France.
Cool.
I mean, what did I say? Do you want Belgium or France?
I want England.
I'm neutral.
I'm rooting for England this year.
Oh, it's time. It's chat and win time.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
What
so
happens?
everyone chats,
What does
and
that
then
mean?
somebody wins.
What does chat and win mean, though?
You chat in the chat here on Behance.
Like if they just write something.
Yeah, I wrote in the last one. I was like, help me. I'd like to win.
Help me.
Help me. I'd like to
So
win.
people are saying.
Someone
"We
said
chat
love the
away."
cover.
Chat
Thanks,
hype.
Sarah.
Hashtag chat hype.
No
I like
spoilers.
Too much pressure.
I won before.
Someone won already
Yay.
before? Wow.
Erica really wants to win.
Right?
that. Me,
loves
Kelsey's
please.
chatting.
Also,
Pillows.
how long does this happen for?
A minute.
A minute.
Now we know how long.
We want
I like
pillows?
the pillow. The Adobe pillows are pretty cool.
I was like, you
yeah.
can't really.
Oh.
The ones
Is that
with the they
Is
look
that
like the
Filmmaker
squares.
Michael Moore is participating.
so many folks
Maybe.
here? Welcome. Please make a new movie.
Win what? This is a notebook. You're winning, and it has lines on one side and it's blank on another.
And you
And
should
it's
want
from this
it.
really cool brand also.
Oh, and then we'll get to see who wins pretty soon. Has
Pay-
it been a
pays
minute?
I
that
just love the concept.
It's a
someone
gorgeous
said. It's a
notebook.
great idea.
Just give it to me,
Oh.
Erica. Erica really
We can
wants
keep
to.
Oh, we can
Or
keep
no, it's
going.
not Eric. It's Eric.
Oh, it's up.
Okay.
Kelsey. Do you see
Kelsey.
that? Kelsey, you won.
The algorithm. chose-
Congrats,
Yay.
Kelsey.
Ah, she's like,
Yay.
Anna win. Good job. You get a notebook. We'll reach out to you independently and get your information. So, congratulations. I'm very jealous. Anyway, so I really want to go through this edit process with
Sure.
all of you. I want to see what will make it, what may not make it, why, and just your different thought
Right.
processes. So let's throw it up on the screen. I'm ready.
Okay. So 7 days? Not
Yeah,
many days.
something like that.
Not many days.
It's kind of insane. Right, Mumbai
Mumbai
is where
first.
we started.
So
right, and we stayed in the beautiful Taj Hotel there in Mumbai, which has an amazing history. We got access to some pretty cool places. We went to a fish market. We went to this place where in the early morning hours, people are arranging all these newspapers in big stacks and for like the newspaper companies to come and pick up and distribute. We went to a flower market. There's a photo of a flower market there. And at these places, it was, for me, the most interesting part of Mumbai. The people was the most interesting part of Mumbai. I think my first time there, I was a little intimidated about shooting people. For whatever reason, on this trip, I didn't have that kind of hesitation. I just felt a lot more comfortable, and I think it had a lot to do with just the interactions that the sort of, I was getting a lot of love back, from, when you go into a crowded marketplace. Like these guys here, there's actually a pretty cool story here with these guys.
Yeah.
We were at we were outside the flower market, and so there was something not on camera here, just sort of happening, but not too far away. There was an older man, and he was clearly there with I think maybe it was like his relatives or something, maybe his son and his brother, but he was a very frail old man, but he had just this like beautiful smile on his face, and I approached, and I had my camera out, and I was like, I gave him like the international sign for, can I take your photo? And he was into it, and it kind of caused this chain reaction where people in the immediate vicinity were like, saw that interaction, and they were like, hey, like, come take my photo. And so I was in this situation where I had all these complete strangers who were, I think in this case, like the sort of hustle and bustle of the early morning flower market had kind of just ended. And so there were just people kind of sitting around waiting for something to happen. And so it was just kind of like a really great moment where you had a bunch of people that were like excited about a complete stranger being there taking photos, and they were like inviting me into it. So with these guys, it was like literally I turned around and they were there, and they were like, come over here, and like take a picture of us. And so it ended up being one of my sort of favorite moments. So I mean, normally I prefer sort of more candid moments as opposed to like a posed shot. But luckily they kind of happened to just be standing in kind of a perfect
That's so perfect.
area.
Pretty perfect.
We actually have someone that lives in Mumbai that has a question. They're saying, how do I develop an eye for these shots? I mean, to me, these parts aren't so exciting. I mean, it's our daily life. How can I look at these in a more photographic way? I don't know. I wonder.
How do you develop an eye for these shots?
How do you
Well,
how do you look at it from being an outsider, I suppose?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know. To a certain extent, you just kind of, I feel like for me at least, I just trust my feelings and my eye. I think for me, in that situation, almost everything was interesting. And India in general, I can't remember a recent trip, at least, where the moment I got off the plane until the moment I left, I felt that everything was interesting.
Yeah.
I probably took more photos there than I usually do. So that was just exciting. It's an exciting feeling to feel that way, to feel that everything is interesting. 99% of the photos you take are probably, they don't end up being that like magic moment that you're sort of looking for. But if you shoot enough, if you spray and pray, is kind of a terrible term that I use, but it's really what I do. I just, I look and I see and I shoot, and then I just repeat that all day until you're like exhausted. But
Yeah.
We're going to break down some like photographic stuff for the audience about what's going on in this picture that Tyson isn't really thinking about. He's just doing because he's a good photographer, like he's a talented photographer. So there's a lot of things that are going on, but there are like photographic things that we can like help elucidate a little bit for the audience that they can take in. And for like Sanyam, who was asking like, how do I do this? And he's from Mumbai. I think one thing is like, Tyson's not from Mumbai, so it's all interesting, right? When you travel to a new place. So even if you're not able to like go to another country or go to another region, you can go to another part of your city, perhaps, that you don't usually go to. Like you can definitely be inspired in your neighborhood. Like some of the pictures that people like most from me are like me walking around my neighborhood because there's things that I like. But you can also go like in San Francisco. Like we're going to go on a photo walk up to Mount Tam, and that's a place that is really beautiful that's here. That is kind of a pain to get to. So honestly, like you just don't go all that often. But if you make a point to go, then you're giving yourself an assignment. So maybe there's places in Mumbai that you've never been to, and you're like, hey, I'm curious about this place, and you sort of give yourself an assignment, and then you treat it like an assignment, like you think about, in advance, like what maybe you want to get from it. You might have, even if you don't have Deb as a photo editor to give you a shot list like she gave Tyson, she's going to give people ideas of things, for an editorial perspective. If you're a fine artist, maybe you're approaching new areas in a different way. But I think it's doing that. And one thing that's also really cool is like collaborating. With Tahiti was the first time I've traveled with like that many photographers. There were maybe 6 or 7 of us. And it's really exciting because you get the energy from other people. So if you invite a friend, even if they're not a professional photographer, to go do this like micro assignment in your own city, then like one, you have to go, and then maybe you discover something new.
That's great.
Do you want to talk? We wanted to talk about, like, if you want to pull back up that first
Sure.
photo, both like how could this photo have been worse, and then what are some of the things that are great about it?
Is that something you regularly do with assignment work, is ask those questions?
No, that's something we actually have been talking about. The two of us is, we often are doing this and making choices that it's just your eye is drawn to something. Now there are reasons why.
Right.
My eye was drawn to this picture, and just to the point that the other person was talking about who lives in Mumbai, that this might be kind of an everyday thing that's going on in the picture, but the picture itself is very compelling.
Right.
So even though what's happening in the picture might seem everyday to someone, I mean, it doesn't to me, but there's something about the composition of the picture, the color in the picture, the light, the way that these people are relating to the photographer, which you can feel in their body language, and you can see in their body language. We can break it down even more, but there are reasons why something kind of draws your eye in. And that happens to me when I'm editing pictures, and when Tyson was saying that, he's just shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting, and then when he decides how much he's going to send to me as a photo editor, I'm fine with a lot. I can, partly because I've been doing it for such a long time, I can go through a lot of work really quickly, and I have a process of just going through and kind of marking everything that attracts my eye at the beginning, and then I go through again, and I go through again, and keep whittling it down. So volume is not a bad thing, and also I think is important. Sorry.
Quick interruption. Somebody is saying, do you really have to edit all your photos? We are older, and so back in the day,
Edit.
photo editing meant
Picking, selecting,
pictures.
selecting. When I
So-
say edit, I'm selecting pictures. I think now editing means
processing.
doing retouching and
Making
light
selects.
adjustments and things like that. So I'm talking about selecting, but I lost my
Sorry.
But
train
so
of
we're
thought.
chatting about what would make this photo better, what would make this
By the way,
worse.
my parents met in Rexburg, Idaho.
Oh, cool. That's crazy.
One thing I did want to say to the non-professional photographers out there, I'm sure some of you who are watching are professionals, and then some of you may not be or may want to be, but to not feel, I think the age of Instagram, while it has a lot of great things about it, may make people feel like every picture they take has to be this perfect moment. And probably because of how long I've been doing this, and literally I used to look at contact sheets, which were physical things where I saw everything that the photographer shot, because they just got all the film processed and I saw all of it. And that's fine. No one's perfect. And so
Well, sometimes you cut up
I
your
think
contact
also
sheets
if
and
you're,
only send the
that's
photos
true,
you wanted.
that's true. But I'm saying just
Great
as a
tip.
photo editor, it doesn't, I think it's important that people don't feel constrained to get it perfect every time, because I would imagine if you're shooting and you're out there and you're just thinking, oh, I don't know if this is going to be perfect. This isn't necessarily an Instagram moment. The Instagram moment might come out of 100 pictures, and
Totally.
just keep doing it, keep going, just keep taking pictures.
And because of digital and because
can
of,
do that.
of even like the awesome Lightroom products, you can batch edit and look at 100 photos and be
Right.
like, I think this one, so
Yeah.
I think it's okay. If you can
Right.
handle it, then it's great.
I think Tyson could probably speak to like has some, difficulties with that in that his audience is so based on Instagram,
Right.
and so they expect him to have like a good Instagram photo. I was just telling someone on a shoot that we sent them to Portland, but like a good Instagram photo is like a cover of a magazine, right?
Right.
And so
Every
like
single
if you're a
time.
person who has been shooting for many years and your whole feed, people just expect a magazine cover every single day.
Right, and let me
Right?
tell
Like,
you,
if-
producing a magazine cover
It
is a
takes
whole
work.
production, literally. I mean, we
Yeah.
would do
Oh, yeah.
cover tries and tests and multiple shoots before the final shoot. But like I'm talking about, like the cover of Real Simple. That
Right.
didn't just happen.
Right.
Even with one shoot. It was multiple shoots, so test shoots over a period of time to come up with the final. So I think it's just, digital has changed the game, as Nicholas said. That's
And
true.
Instagram. Well, like there's just this question. Tim is saying, like, does every Instagram have to be a cover? And it doesn't. But the
No.
more it feels like a cover, right, the better it does. So if
Right.
you're someone like Tyson who has a big audience and you're wanting each post to do well, then if like
love your
it
way.
doesn't feel like a cover, but you really like the picture, like, do you share it, right? And like Tiny Atlas is actually meant to be like the magazine is meant to be a place where more subtle pictures can come across. So
Right.
should we look at some more stuff from the
Sure.
blog?
I would love to look at it. I would love to figure out how we can talk about selecting and what your experience was. Real quick, we have another challenge in about 44 minutes.
Okay.
So the challenge, you can see it on the challenge tab, but if you can edit an image in Lightroom CC and then upload it to Instagram with the hashtag Adobe Live LR, we'll be looking through them later and pick a winner. So anyways, let's continue. Let's look at these photos.
So to get into
Let's
editing,
chat
and when we say editing, I
Selecting.
mean selecting.
One basic thing that
Yeah.
you guys that we were talking about yesterday, like what makes photos great according to us? Obviously, every magazine and every editor is going to have different. If you have a fine art publication, it's going to have a different perspective. We have a perspective of like beautiful natural light. Tiny Atlas is very much outward looking. We want to be engaging with cultures, human, accessible. We have a lot of values sort of in the work that we do, but on top of that, you have like great natural light, real experiences, connecting with locals. One thing that Deb sort of coined really early, we were editing some photos for a section that we used to do in the magazine that was sort of just a series of places. And there would be really beautiful, interesting places, but maybe it's like a dust storm. And Deb's like, but do I want to be there? Because it's
wanna
a
be
travel
there.
magazine. And so there is an element, even though we want to see many, many parts of the world, of like, do you want to go there? So those are some of the things that we have in mind always when we're editing a story. And like going back to that really quick to that photo of Tyson's, we were saying like how could that picture have been not as good? And they got up like pre-dawn to go walk around to these markets, and so the light, right? Like if you guys see, like it's really beautiful, soft lighting. There's no harsh shadows. So that's there, and then there's color and composition and all these different things.
And what are you typically shooting on when you're doing travel assignment work?
So for this trip, I brought 4 cameras. I brought, I think I probably shot this on the Leica Q, which is in a situation like this in a street market. I felt like that was going to be my best tool because it's super small. I have it here somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Do you want me to grab it?
Oh, yeah.
What Leica Q, it's it's small, it's compact. but it's very powerful. The lens itself is really sharp and crisp, but it's not imposing. So if you're going to be in tight quarters and you're going to be shooting portraits, like I thought I was hoping I'd be getting portraits in this situation, it kind of was the perfect camera, as opposed to, I also brought my Canon bodies, and those are quite big, and the lenses are big, and sometimes when you put that in front of somebody, it immediately is a little intimidating. So you can get that reaction, I find, if you break out that real one, or it's just something that clicks in people's head. They're like, oh, that's like a professional camera. So
Like, I'm not ready for that.
I'm not ready for it. But then I also shoot a lot on my iPhone, and then I brought my drone to India, which is kind of a whole other story. But that was my gear for this trip, and for the last probably 6 or 7 projects that I've been on, that's been my kit.
Wow.
I have a GoPro. I just recently got a GoPro Hero 6 that I took to Belize on a recent trip because I want to do some underwater stuff, and so. I'm always adding. Thank you. I'm always adding new tools when I can.
Did you shoot on a drone before Tahiti?
So in the Tahiti trip, I did have a drone, but it was a Phantom 3, and I brought it to Tahiti. But as you remember, because we talked about this, I was petrified about flying it, But that trip really gave me a lot of confidence, in part because there was 2 really amazing drone experts on that trip, and they sort of took me under their wings. Their Instagram's Salty Wings, so shout out to those guys. 2 Australian guys who are amazing at drone photography, but they also like gave me some great tips and pointers. And immediately after the Tahiti trip, I went and upgraded. I went and got a Phantom 4 Pro, and just like splurged and get a new one because I was like really energized and excited about using the drone more.
And that was something we talked about. Tyson and I had a conversation before we went to India. Whenever we're sending photographers somewhere, I send them along hopefully with a brief of desired shot lists, understanding that situations may arise that prevent them from getting every single shot. That's another thing. Just for any photographer, professional or not, when you know you're going somewhere, if you can have some things in your mind that you know you want to accomplish, because as he was just talking about, you get somewhere and it's just kind of a overwhelming barrage of information coming at you, and you're shooting and shooting and shooting. Even if you're not literally standing there with your shot list ticking off like I got that, I got that, I got that.
Yeah.
It's in your mind.
Yeah, you're definitely not doing that.
You're definitely not doing that.
You're definitely not looking at a shot list.
Unless I were there, standing there. I would be standing there.
Yeah, let's keep looking at these.
I use Bridge to make selects, Adobe Bridge. That's my preferred mode of doing it. So this, we're looking at the entire edit that Tyson sent to us. From Mumbai. And again, like, I don't mind seeing everything.
Yeah, go to that one.
Yeah.
That's outside the newspaper packing. So like, this is like 5 a.m. These guys are all out there putting these stacks of newspapers together. So I don't know. There's not much of a story beyond that, other than.
Do you do any location scouting, or is it just in the moment?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, you do location scouting as much as you can. In this case, this was an area that I didn't know about, so it was, the press trip that I went on. They connected us to some local guides there, and they asked us, ahead of time, thankfully, sort of what are you looking for? What are you interested in? And they told us about this thing that they offered, which was basically like an early morning market thing. And you had to get up, I think we had to get up at 4 a.m. So it was kind of insane, but it was great. It was like 3 or 4 intense hours of kind of going from one place to the next. And what was great about this, is because we had a local guide who was obviously going to take us to, you know, places that we would be safe to explore and shoot on our own, but also they were there in case we needed to like communicate or whatever might happen. So, so that's kind of the perfect scenario when you have a local who knows cool places and can take you. Location scouting is like crucial in many ways to producing a good photo shoot, but there's nothing like having a local guide on the ground who can really take you to the spot and in this case really like make you feel comfortable interacting with locals.
Did you guys have the same guides throughout the whole trip, or you had different guides in different cities?
So we had a different guide in Mumbai, and then we had the same guide for our time in Rajasthan, which was Jaipur and Jodhpur. So.
And I know we're not really going to work with raw images in this segment, but if you could ever speak to the editing process, the processing process, as we look at these photos, I think that would be really helpful. So what kinds of things are you doing to every image and
So in general, it's a very light. For me, it's a very light treatment.
Okay. Do you want to talk to this picture?
Yeah, which one?
Sorry. Computers.
I try not to do too much, to be honest. You know, the interesting thing about Mumbai, the light in Mumbai, and you know, not that I have a whole lot of experience. I think I've probably spent now between 2 trips, maybe a total of 6 or 7 days in Mumbai. So just take it what I say with a grain of salt. But there is a haze that typically forms in the morning hours that sometimes burns off as the sun gets higher. But there's an orange glow there that sets in, and it casts a diffused light on kind of everything. So this is well beyond sun. Sun had already been up for a couple hours by this point, but the light was still good. To the, you know, for a photographer, good. I felt like so.
Yeah, the shadows they're just
Not harsh.
Not that harsh.
Yeah, it was still, I mean, this is partially in an enclosed area where I shot this. This was just really an accidental photo, really. We were walking through this area and I was trying not to step in fish guts, which were everywhere in this situation. One of the most incredible smells you know, that I've experienced, because it's like fresh fish had just come off of these boats on either side of this area, and then this like very energetic fish market exchanging of these ladies that have the buckets on their head. They have like, you know, raw fish in them, all kinds of all manner, squid, fish parts. And it's all just like happening, and there's merchants everywhere like selling their stuff, and so it's very exciting, very visually interesting. So
so in editing this photo, or what is your typical workflow? Is there
a typical workflow? I mean, how specific do you want me to get here?
Like for me, I'll put a photo in Lightroom and I'll do white balance and then my exposure and then maybe some of the lens corrections. Like I just have the things that I do immediately and maybe put my own little take on it and then move on.
Yeah, I'm almost afraid to even talk about it because I feel like it's like completely backwards of what most people do. But
that's okay though.
Yeah. Lens correction is usually the first thing, and then I know I've seen a lot of people edit and then they wait to the last minute to crop, but like I always crop. It's like the first thing I do. I just want to see it. I want to frame it. I can usually look at a photo and I can sort of think even when I'm shooting, I'm framing it, you know? And so I like to, for whatever reason, I like to do that first, because if the frame doesn't work, then I'm going to usually just move on. I'm not going to waste time trying to process a photo.
But you often crop your photos from your original crop? Like from how you shot it?
I have trouble with that. I started as a film photographer, and everything I shoot, I have trouble thinking about cropping it because when I shot it, I was thinking it in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd really
You're
love to
already thinking
learn
about it,
how to
yeah.
crop
This is
a
the
photo.
yeah. I've been trained by Instagram, I guess.
that's interesting.
I mean, you know, when I first started shooting, when I first started taking photos, I was doing it all on my iPhone, and I was thinking about everything in a square format. Everything.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's.
And you
I
weren't
was.
shooting Hasselblad, so you like had to crop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'm still not shooting Hasselblad.
Well, that was like the only camera that was square, and it's funny because Instagram, when Instagram started, it was like the biggest thing that happened to photography, right? But it was like square, and they just chose square. And I mean, Polaroid originally,
Square.
land cameras, and you know, the devotees of like SX70s and stuff like that, you had this square. But other than Polaroid people, it was, you know, the only camera, the professional camera that people used that was square was Hasselblad. But then Instagram came, and then like the whole world was shooting squares for a few years, and then thankfully they like opened it back up.
Yeah. So what is your thought process now about cropping since we're throwing the square out the window?
Well, now it's completely the square. Yeah, I mean now it's completely different. Now I think about it in terms of. So I should say, you know, I think. In it, you know, there's. The client has a need, right? Mm-hmm. Right, and in this case, right, Tiny Atlas. There's the magazine. There's their Instagram, and then there's my Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thought process usually needs to sort of include everybody. So I am thinking usually when I'm taking an image and I'm getting excited about it, I'm primarily thinking like, is this gonna work for my Instagram? That's just like the first thing, and so I don't know if that's good or that maybe that's not a good or bad thing, but it typically the photos that I'm gonna spend a lot of time on are the ones I want to make them usually in portrait mode or in landscape mode. So 5x4 or the reverse of that. And I'm going to try to make the as perfect or as near as like ready, Instagram ready as possible, and then give that file to them. And then I go back and I take the rest of the stuff and sometimes I crop it and sometimes I don't, but I'll give it a light treatment and then I'll send that stuff. And so I don't know, you know, I don't know that we've ever talked about whether that's good or bad. I mean, whether you like that approach or not, but I figure that if I'm giving them images that they can take and immediately use in a variety of ways, then that's good. Like if I can give them an image and they can put it on their Instagram right away, then that seems like a win.
Right.
Yeah.
There's always the opportunity too and this is part of most client photographer workflows of you might send a sort of first pass, now I'm going to say edited, meaning all the adjustments a photographer might make, knowing it's not the final. Mm-hmm. I can look over a set of images that everything isn't totally done and make my selections and then go back to Tyson and say, okay, these are the 10 we really want.
Yeah.
Can you do your final adjustments? And that depends on what your deadline is and how quickly you need to see everything. And so there's not one way to do it. It often depends on your timeline.
So like if you're looking at Deb's screen right now, you can kind of like casually glance and you can kind of see like the ones that I was most excited about.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're the ones that are the closest to being done. So like that one, right?
The lady.
Like
I
that
love
one
that
I was
photo.
like excited about. So you can see that there's a little treatment there. I've taken a lot of care to make sure the coloring is just right. Color is very important for me.
Like, what are you doing color-wise? Like,
So I'm not usually doing a lot of anything with color. Like I almost never adjust saturation. I think for me it's more about did I capture a beautiful color initially? I think that's what I mean. Like in this case, there wasn't her she had a beautiful dress on like almost every
Everyone does
woman in India. Yeah, it's really remarkable.
Amazing.
For me, with this photo, the thing that kept me. I actually never posted. I didn't post this photo. I still haven't posted it. The thing that prevented me from posting it was because it felt staged. It wasn't staged. This was actually like a genuine moment.
Right.
But when I was looking at it, I thought,
picture
gosh,
of her.
it's not candid enough, you know. And we were in an area. To be fair, this is in Jaipur. We were in Jodhpur. Sorry, the Blue City.
Blue City.
So we were in an area that were a lot of, I didn't know it at the time, but I think a lot of tourists end up getting there. We were there at sunrise, so there weren't a lot of tourists, but I think throughout the day, a lot of people do go through there. And I think these ladies, not her specifically, but I think people there are accustomed to having their photos taken there. So, you know, this was a more candid moment. This guy didn't see me. But obviously the lady, like I was just taking a picture of the doorway I thought was pretty, and then she just like walked right into frame.
Wow.
Struck a pose.
And I'd love your take on the difference between the two for you, both in terms of composition, the posing, and the editing, because the treatment's a little bit different. And I don't know if it's just because the light changed, or maybe you did something a little bit.
Yeah, I probably put a little something on there. You know.
Between the two photos
That's a
of
state
the
secret.
same
We
woman.
This one we're looking
that.
at now versus the other.
The woman with the
There's
broom and
two.
without the broom.
Oh, with the broom.
So that
Yeah.
one feels a little different than the other
The
one.
other one, I think there's like contrast and
Here,
brightness.
I'll move
like
them
there's
next
not-
to each other.
Yeah. So I mean, so to answer your question from like 10 minutes ago, yeah, I'm adding contrast.
Never too late.
I'm upping exposure usually, and
Yeah.
then I'm upping exposure, adding contrast.
Right.
Those are like the two things. I'm usually crushing highlights as opposed to blowing them out. But never touch color usually. Sometimes I do, but if I feel like it needs it, I'll do maybe a little selective adjust, and then obviously then I'm trying to get rid of blemishes.
Do you guys want to see, and do you want to see in like, do these guys want to see an actual edit? Like, are you interested in seeing people out there? Are you guys interested in seeing us take one of these cities and go through and pick like 10 favorite pictures from them and put them in order?
That would actually be great.
Okay.
Someone's like, yes,
I would
yes,
love
yes, of course. Okay.
Yes.
So let's just bust
Okay, let's
out
do it.
some
I
editing.
think that's what we
So
promised
this is
to do.
That is the segment.
We should do.
So-
But
let's
real
do
quick,
it.
it's 0-0,
do it.
France versus Belgium.
0-0
Still?
France and
All
Belgium.
right.
Just want to let you know.
Should we do this?
Thank you for watching us. It's clearly very boring over there.
Since you're on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go
That
through.
went by a lot.
Do you
Yeah,
guys?
let's do-
How do you guys chat with each other about
We
the?
literally,
we do
literally
that? Let's
sit
just do
next to each other in front of, usually we're
Yeah,
on
no,
an
I don't.
iMac.
I
You don't
don't
see
see
this
this.
part?
I don't see this
Oh,
part.
this is
This
gonna
is
be fun.
the,
This
Well,
is
because they
like
live in
industry
Oakland and I
secret.
live in New
I
York,
know.
so
So-
yeah.
I live in
Not really.
a little further,
Sorry.
the suburbs. But anyway, part of the reason why we're here together is we do this, I mean, there are times that I'll go through a big set and do an initial pass. And then Emily and I will sit together and put together a story.
Yeah.
So I'll let
So-
you two do that, and
Yeah.
then we might interject. at
Yeah,
some
or
point,
with
but-
questions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So when we're doing a story from the magazine, sometimes it's chronological for a trip or it's just telling the story. But usually the first pass of what we're gonna do is like just favorite pictures and then see like, oh, do we have too many of this, too much of that?
Right.
So let's just go through.
So
Not enough of this.
here,
Why don't you go
I'm gonna
through,
go
like,
back
the
to like, this
whole-
is the whole edit of everything Tyson sent to us from Jodhpur.
Jodhpur. Okay.
Right?
Let's go through and then mark favorites
Okay.
through the whole set.
Okay. I already did like a little pre-edit,
can,
so
like-
I can take them out.
Yeah.
Will I remember what I like?
Yeah, well, and then maybe Tyson will fight for a picture that
Okay.
we didn't. So just
Ah,
I would
well.
just like make them big, like make one at a time big,
Yeah,
and then just
there you
mark
go.
it or not. So
Okay.
And tell us if you do, because I don't know.
this is the hotel, right, Tyson?
That, if you can believe it, is the
That
hotel.
is the hotel.
It's a
Yeah.
palace.
It's literally a palace.
It's literally a palace.
In fact, the
my
part of the royal family still lives in one of the
Wow.
So
One
your
of the
room
wings.
was like a little corner, something.
Just right next door.
My room,
Near
as
the
you can
elevator.
imagine, was very nice, but it wasn't we
didn't see it much.
We didn't see the. I know.
You were out.
Yeah, no. So this was an interesting place. The interior is like Art Deco style.
Is this a drone image?
It's a drone image. Yeah, I had to get special permission to use a drone here. In fact, everywhere where I flew in India, I had to get special permission, and getting it was not easy.
It's a big deal in India. And
It's a
Tyson
big
was
deal.
Can I do it? Can I?
It's a
bring
big
it in?
deal. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
that was a piece of the advance work.
anybody
that we had to do.
listening or watching that wants to do drone stuff in India, I'm not an expert, but I definitely know a lot more now than I used to. So you can just contact me,
Nice.
and I'll give you some helpful pointers
Thank you.
for navigating.
People are talking about the World Cup. Okay, so this one is.
So
you have
I
that
picked
as-
it. You
because
see
it's
the
a
little.
cool picture.
Okay,
so
that one got picked.
It's-
Sick.
It's not
Perfect.
fun. And we have
But
this.
you didn't like this one?
No, I
No,
like
you
this
didn't.
one. I haven't marked
But
it
which
yet.
one?
This is
was
so. This
better?
is like a wide edit. So we're gonna
This
do
is
like
wide.
a
This is
wide,
like
and then we're gonna
everything.
make this.
Yeah.
wide.
Okay.
So that's wider. One thing that
Mm-hmm.
I like about this when we were talking about it, although I feel like we will cut it,
Yes, it will get
is
cut.
that you can see
okay.
There's no suspense now.
you can see the city behind. So if
Mm-hmm.
you look at the picture, you get a sense like if you've seen pictures. One of my biggest things with travel is where with Tiny Atlas is like really giving you a sense what a place is like. And there's so many times where you see a magazine story of a place and you just get this little glimpse, or especially now in Instagram age where people have seen a picture and they want to go make pictures at that same wall
In
or
the
whatever.
same way.
But you don't get the wider context and you don't get the real story. So this gives you a sense of like, oh wow, this building is quite tall. It's taller than most buildings.
Yeah.
You know, it's this big. There's a lot of buildings out there and they're all really close together. And I thought Jodhpur was like a little village beforehand. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, there's millions of people that live there.
The other thing to say, just for me as a photo editor, the context of, the perfect shot, let's say, when I see the other ones that came before and after and around it, it gives me confidence in my final choice to see the context around it. I don't know if I'm verbalizing that, but I think that's something
that
that's
makes
going
sense.
on
Yeah.
in my mind, even if I'm not totally aware of it, that I want to see more than what the final cropped thing might be. It informs my decision making,
Right.
whether I'm conscious of it or not.
So at this point, between the two, we've chosen this as part of a wide edit, but you'll probably go back and only
Probably,
choose one.
but
We probably will choose neither. We're going to choose a drone shot from this hotel, but they're cool.
Now we might choose one for Instagram story because in some ways this was a client project. It's not just for us, for the magazine. There was a client involved, and we do have
The client was the hotel.
the
Right,
client
and the
was the
client's
hotel,
so they want to see the hotel.
and
Yeah.
they've taken,
Yeah.
when you're doing work for clients, sometimes it may not be the most perfect picture or the most engaging, but it hits a note that needs to be hit for the client.
Right.
Right.
And that is the difference between editorial work and client work. And we have a lot of freedom with the magazine part of Tiny Atlas to edit that one out if we want to. However, if we were sent on assignment by the hotel or by another client, we have to take those considerations into account, and it can't just be what we think is the best. We might have to pick things that serve another purpose for a client.
Although
So-
hotels are very interested in experiences. now.
Yeah, and there needs to be a variety.
Yeah. So this because you guys have seen too the wider context. There's some really standout portraits here. This is a nice portrait, but I feel like you're
I'm marking it for
feeling-
now.
Okay.
It's okay. I mean, it was okay.
It wasn't. Okay, and then this is cool. There were a couple of these, right? Or is this the only one? So there's a vertical and horizontal, which is something that's really important to talk about for magazines or for any client, like in travel. Facebook is horizontal, Instagram is vertical. Magazines are both. There's a lot of the full page picture or versus a double page spread. So as a professional photographer or an emerging photographer, or anyone who wants to work with clients, you want to have both vertical and horizontal options. So in a case like this, we would often, if there's like a really nice vertical and horizontal, we would choose one of each because we don't know how we're going to use it until
Right.
the end.
Yes, no.
The
maybe,
dog
so.
bothers me.
Dog
Yeah.
bothers you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say no.
So then we have this lady.
Love her.
Like, we're probably gonna pick this one for now.
Yeah.
Knowing
Instead
that,
of the sweeping one.
well, I'm gonna pick
Oh,
both
okay.
for now.
Okay.
Because as we go on, part of building a story is pacing, and
Right.
sometimes you need a person in between the architecture and the landscape. And so when you're going through this first part of the selection process, it's good to have options.
We talked a little bit, if you go back just for one more second to this, we talked a little bit about this as something that has some like other sort of advice for travel photographers in it. There's a lot of nice things happening in this picture. There's like beautiful color. There's a nice moment. There's all these interesting details, but there's like framing. So it's like a very simple framing of this woman is nicely framed in this rectangle inside of the picture plane, which itself is a rectangle. And there's the contrast between like the blue and the ornate blue and the details in the blue. And then there's the ornate like red. But then there's also these little beaded details like above the door, and you see a little bit of Sanskrit writing, which all of a sudden, you know, it's telling you a lot about where you are. But something that like, if you're not in India, like you can also take a picture in a door frame in a lot of places, and it's a nice like quick way to tell a story. And it's also like a lighting trick, right? So like if you take a picture of someone in a doorway, your eye actually, like Tyson could probably see inside that room a little bit more because our eyes are better than a camera eye. But if you're going to focus and you want this woman to be the right exposure, you can focus on her, and the background it's going to be too dark. But that's a really nice way suddenly to pop her out. And we were talking about how this sort of mimics or, you know, reminds people of what's the famous like Steve McCurry picture of the girl in Afghanistan. Like there's a little bit of that echoed in this picture.
Yeah.
And it's that type of picture, right? Like that the Steve
You're talking about the most famous photo of all
Pretty
time.
much.
yeah, but I
think
mean,
you've nailed it, dude.
but you probably saw that picture a little bit in your head.
I've seen it a million.
No,
I've seen it a million
while
times.
you're shooting.
There
Yeah.
she is.
So like those pictures inform how photographers shoot, right? So you sort of see that picture without even thinking, and maybe you're taking a version of that. Maybe you didn't think about it, maybe you did, but it's the same thing. It's open shade, it's doorway, and it's like color framing this woman. And so those are things where
Yeah, no, for sure. There were like alarm bells going off. There were, you know, sometimes you fall, and this is maybe another discussion, or maybe it's something we should talk about. But like, you can easily fall into. I'm just speaking for myself now. These tropes, you know, and it's a lot of it probably is informed by what you see have seen, whether it's like a National Geographic cover, or just all the people you follow on Instagram who you know inspire you every day. But there's like a language in photography. There's also like there are things that are trendy. There are things that are popular. There are things that you'll see and you'll think, yeah, that's a way to frame a photo, and that is going to get a lot of likes. And I try to fight against those things as much as I can, but
love you
I'm
for
not immune to it. I'm not immune to it, and
That's okay.
And in this case, that's part of why I didn't post that photo.
But
was
it's
because I
also,
felt like
like-
I was veering into the territory of like. This is
A trope. You're
Tokenism?
part of it.
yeah, I don't know what the
No,
right
but
word
it-
is. I'm afraid to even use a word because I don't want to offend
Yeah.
anybody, because it's not a criticism of
No.
anyone's photography style. It's more about I'm just trying to take a unique photo,
Right.
which is really hard to
Yeah.
do.
And going back to
Yeah.
cropping, Tim wants to know if you would have edited out the dog. Would you have?
Oh.
Would that have made the photo better for you, since you said it bugged you? or?
I don't know.
Doesn't bug
To
me.
be honest, I don't know that I
Doesn't bug me.
spent a lot of time thinking about this one. I probably probably the there's not enough going on in it for me where I would have gone to the trouble it would have taken to get rid of that dog.
Yeah. And then in terms of the woman in the doorway, is there something that you would have wished could have been different for you so that it would have been a more unique photo for you? Or
No, I don't know. Now that I'm looking at it again, maybe I really do like it.
I mean, I love it. So
I,
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
maybe I'll post it.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep moving.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, I want to make one
Okay.
point about this, and if you guys will go to my screen, there's on Instagram. There's an account called The Give and Take, and it's like got a bunch of underscores, so I put it up for you. I don't actually know Audrey, but she's a photo editor who knows Corey Jacobs, she's a filmmaker now, as well as a creative director and photo director who I know. But that's how I found out about The Give and Take. And I think the history of art is the give and take of like learning from others, and then making your own work. And so there is no like history of art without being informed by other art. So I don't think Steve McCurry's photo makes Tyson's photo less interesting. It makes it more interesting because anyone who knows photography will have a little like ding, and they're going to feel happy to recognize an echo of that photo. So you don't want to do the same thing. What I don't like from Instagram is where people go and they saw one photo and they go and take that same exact photo because they know it will succeed. That, to me, is the tokenism. That is boring. I don't want to see it unless it's just kills everyone else's. Like if you're going to go take that same exact photo, but you're going to do it the best way, then great. There's always room to like be wrong for me. But so like The Give and Take, Audrey invites other photographers or editors they post one photo, and then the person who she's playing with then responds with another photo. So each of these photos in this feed responds to the photo before it.
That's great.
Photographically. And it's just like, I would like to like be in it, but I don't think I'm actually like, I don't think I'm a good enough photo editor. I don't know enough about photography to play on the level that the people that she has
but it
played.
just shows you how they're all related.
They're all
These
related,
photos.
but they're all
that's okay.
so different. And to
that's
be
a
able
cool
to
one.
take someone else's image and be informed by it, and then make your own picture, is like the history of art and the history of photography.
Well, and it's also part of the process with design and editorial. Is if I were putting together a photo shoot for a magazine, we come up with reference of things we've seen that we like, and it's not that you just totally recreate that exact thing, but it gives you visual reference. And when I'm assigning a specific shoot to a photographer, not necessarily travel photography, but let's say it's a food photo shoot, I give them visual reference of these are the kinds of images that we're trying to go for, and we're not telling someone do this exact thing, but they're elements of that image that you want to pull in, this kind of lighting or that kind of propping,
Right.
And that's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And real quick, we have 8 minutes until we switch gears to looking at the challenge submission. So hopefully we can get through like
A little more.
bit
Okay.
of an
Well,
edit.
let's go back. So this is an example what Deb has up, or that one picture of. So there's the pictures that you see and that maybe you like or you don't like because you felt like they related to something else, and then there's the pictures that feel just new to you,
Do you
right?
like this one?
We love this
We
picture.
love
love
this
that
picture.
You don't
This
like
is
it?
funny. No, I just no. I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay.
So this is not
Yeah.
a photo that would necessarily do amazing on Instagram or whatever, but from the Tiny Atlas perspective, this is a beautiful travel picture. It's something we haven't seen before, but there's so many interesting things about it. Like, just the light is beautiful, and then what they're wearing is just totally amazing. And it goes, if you look, like these
I thought the
Things
guy
go-
on the moped was, so for me, that was just a tough
No, but
thing
it's
to
an
navigate.
amazing counterpoint. Like you look at what the
Okay.
women are wearing, and then he's wearing a polo shirt and jeans.
And he's so close, and my question is, do they know each other?
Like, is he
or-
their guardian? Are they with him? Or is it India and there's so many people there that they're just next to each other? I don't carry my 3-year-old around wearing like a gown. So to me, just as a woman and a mom, like this is compelling just to see, get a window into like the life of someone completely different from my everyday. And that's one of those elements in a picture that makes me feel like I'm there. And I'm not going to get to go to Jodhpur anytime soon, but I feel like I'm walking behind her right now. And that just for me is engaging. And I mean, the colors of what they're wearing, the color of the scrim that's above them,
Yeah.
you know, why that
Only in India,
I mean,
like where, like in the United States, you have
Oh.
scrims like that at like a farmer's market, but they're like boring colors. But in India, it's like turquoise, and then these, you know, these electric fuchsia tones, and like she's walking on a dirty street, but this beautiful gown goes all the way to the ground, and then there's some other beaded something underneath it, and a bracelet, and the kid's got a bracelet, like, and there's also like, there's so many beautiful details, and there's you don't know like why. It brings up questions. So a really incredible photo for us leaves you wanting more, like wanting more photos, more explanation. And there's also like such an interesting cultural story here where in the United States, right, like if you wear a hijab in New York, like it's mostly okay, but now we have all these political issues, and a lot of times people feel uncomfortable, right? Or they're made to feel uncomfortable by expressing their like regional or religious identity, because, and here in India, like no one is going to look twice at this person wearing something that is so incredible. And that's an amazing thing about India. There's so many cultures that coexist there.
Yeah.
And that's something great about travel.
keep going.
Keep going.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to keep us on schedule.
Sorry.
here.
Yeah,
So
thank
We have
you.
8
We can
minutes.
talk about this
2
picture.
minutes now.
Yeah, we love this
What?
one.
Oh my gosh.
So this one,
4 minutes.
no.
No.
I'm gonna not choose it.
But you know, now I kind of understand. Okay,
Okay.
anyway.
Like, is that one good or not? Was that one just okay? You're just
This is context.
okay.
Okay? This is a context
Context.
picture.
We rode around in those things.
I like to sweat.
This guy was super cool. We swapped hats like 5 minutes after this photo was taken.
So he's like standing guard in a
He's a
house.
guard in a
Yeah,
museum.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that one. I think it's interesting how dark the foreground is, but how there's a little light like coming through that you caught on the edge, like sort of rim light on his face.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm. Yeah. Any tourist could have taken these photos. Well, any tourist that goes to that
Right.
location, because that's a very popular area,
I think
and
let's keep
it probably looks like
let's
that all
keep
the
going.
time.
These are things that like they're pretty. You might see them in another magazine, but we
We
would
won't pick this.
opt out because
Why didn't you pick these?
It
Too staged?
feels staged. It doesn't feel
So the
real.
yeah. So the hotel like arranged that for us.
right, and we don't
Oh.
like we don't know like it feels like that, and you
Yeah.
know we want to feel like we're there, and so
I agree.
if it's a person, so
They
yeah,
were
that's
beautiful.
our
They were
worldview.
beautiful singers. It was a beautiful moment. For me personally, it was like
I want all the bracelets.
It was
though.
a highlight, but and I even liked the photos, but
It's
wasn't.
it's not a bad picture
Yeah.
by any
Yeah.
stretch. It's about, you know, part of
about
having
the
your
story
own
you wanna tell,
magazine
right?
is
Yeah.
you have a
That's what your point of
worldview
view is, yeah.
and you get it to
Yeah.
express that.
For the hotel, I think they were great. Would be good to give them and say this is a typical experience that you would get, or maybe it's not that typical. Maybe it was only for because we were like VIP access because we were. This is like part of the roof we were on where not everyone gets to go to, so that was definitely special.
Were you really close to this person in
Yeah,
the
it's
photo?
right in front of
That's
him.
beautiful.
I mean, it was crazy. There were like 4 or 5 of us, and then and then these guys came up, this whole performing family, and the music was. I wish that we had audio. I did shoot a lot of video on this trip, but the music was so haunting that like when I got back from India, I was like searching Rajasthani like music. I was sort of trying to
Traditional.
find this sound so I could like listen to it again. It was that mesmerizing.
Oh, that was one. I mean, I think we should go. We only have a few more minutes, huh? Get
Yeah.
to like some favorites. This is something I guess we were like edit out, but we did like that. Even though this felt like a hotel thing, it felt like a real moment. Like you knew those guys, or you were having a conversation with them,
Yeah.
and you get a sense of like
That's
who
exactly
they are.
what that was.
And he's in on the joke
Yeah.
somehow.
And so he's
I don't
dressed
know if it's a
up,
joke.
but he's a real person, right?
Yeah.
So you could
This
come
guy
through.
on the right would later help adorn one of those on my head.
What's it called?
Turban.
Just a turban.
Yeah.
Okay.
This trip was dominated by a stay at the hotel, which is why a lot of the photos are of the palace. They had a beautiful swimming pool.
This is something that we would probably edit out, but was interesting to see in that it looks so pleasant and familiar in a way to like if you've ever been to a pool with a yard around it, and when
Raise your hands if you've been to a pool.
with
Just there,
the
yes.
yard around it. I'm from the Midwest, and this is like, I mean, that's a nicer deck, than anyone. But when I would think of India, before I went to India, I wouldn't think of like a pool with like this lawn around it in that way.
This was the nicest lawn you've ever seen.
And
it was like immaculate. There were peacocks everywhere.
but that was like a cool thing to learn
Yeah.
that you wouldn't necessarily see.
Or expect.
Yeah, no, it's not what it's maybe not what initially pops into your head when you think of India.
Right.
But India's many things.
Counterpoints and contrasts.
So real quick, the submission deadline is over. We'll keep chatting for a second,
Another
but
few minutes.
we'll look into that Instagram hashtag soon. Also, France has a
Scored?
goal.
Oh my God.
Just want to let you know.
If you're rooting for France, that's good.
1-0.
What are the other
Sure.
photos that you liked? I'm
I'm
curious.
keeping
We're
going
We're
here.
going.
I gave you many.
Yep, that's okay.
Because I like that guy.
I love that.
I like that guy.
I don't love that guy.
I don't love it.
He's a little-
the light's
the
a little
light's
harsh.
too harsh.
Yeah.
So I
Alright,
would not
moving
pick
on.
that. Sorry.
And from a perspective of the cohesion of the story, are you looking for similar light throughout, or are you representing
Oh, that's a good question.
different? Because there's that newspaper shot that's really early in the morning, and it's really dark, and then a lot of
It would
photos
get
are.
cut.
That would get cut.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
I
it's just
mean,
too different than the rest.
Yeah.
It's too different. I mean, we would have
Yeah.
generally there's like a vibe to a story. And Tiny Atlas is like kind of errs on the side of pretty and maybe a little bit lighter. Not overly, but we would go with sort of what has happened, like what we see, and there'll be a range of,
Yeah.
of
That's it.
imagery.
You just went to everything.
Yeah,
That was
quick.
that's the hallway right outside my bedroom.
I like that
Wow.
all. So let's go back to what we've selected. There was the one picture in the hotel where there's just the chair.
Yeah, I like this one.
No, I meant
No.
the one with the outside, like the lawn, and you just see like one table and chair. I think this one.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have that in the story, where you get a really nice sense of the palette of the
Of what
place.
life in colonial India must have been like.
Yeah, or what it's like for someone who goes to the Taj today.
Well, I think that's something. Often a color palette will emerge just
Yeah.
From
naturally.
your initial selection.
Yep.
Okay.
So these are so this hotel didn't have the overviews, the drone from that's a different hotel.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are some of the favorites. And then if we were going to start to put together a story from just Jodhpur, there's always the question of like, where do you start, right?
What's your opening intro to this place?
So what's your opener, Deb?
Is that how you start? Is the opener?
You start with the
Usually-
money shot.
Well, you're trying to kind of set the tone
Oh, okay.
and introduce the place, and that doesn't always have to be logical in terms of an overview shot. We're sometimes thinking about, like, is there type in the picture, and where would that go, and is there room for it? Things like that. I mean,
Well, in Tiny Atlas on the magazine, we have like, there's the opener, but then there's also the picture that is sort of the cover to each feature and the website. And so if the covers are all landscapes, then we might want a person, or if they're all people, we might want a landscape. Go back to that. So those are just things to consider.
and I might start with not with the hotel, but with the blue cityscape.
So like in City, if you go to my screen just for a second, like in our previous issue on City, there's like Guadalajara, Dubrovnik, Waikiki, Ningbo, Macau, Tokyo, Minneapolis, Paris, Tel Aviv, and Havana. And so like if you have one, you can't have it all be the same.
Right.
In terms of vibe. So like Minneapolis, there was a lot of food. So you have just a simple, beautiful plate
Beautiful.
versus like really lifestyle-y picture for Waikiki. Dubrovnik has that big overview. And Guadalajara, the first thing you think of with Guadalajara isn't like a pool, like a calming pool with green, like it's a busy, bustling Mexican city. But it was a nice view of what's going on in the cultural scene there at the time, which is now, and also a contrast to like other features that we have. And then likewise, when you start, do you start with sort of an epic overview or a quieter moment?
You guys aren't really into the epic. I mean, you like the epic, like everyone does, but that's not like your vibe.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have a more personal.
It's supposed to be like a personal vision of travel, and maybe you have a few of those moments, but I think
I love, sorry to interrupt you
Yeah.
there, but I love that when you look at those photos, those cover photos that you were using example, I love that you can't immediately identify that location.
yeah, like
You know
we're
what I mean?
not gonna have we're never gonna have the Eiffel Tower on the cover of like Tiny Atlas, and because I said that, then we'll probably do some like French
I hope-
issue, and like I'll always
They hate
We did
the
have
Eiffel
a story
Tower.
in Paris,
Right.
though.
Go France.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our Paris. So here's our Paris, and there's the Eiffel Tower in it, but like
Oh yeah, there is.
Paris, it was these girls. So this is a professional photographer, Krista Renee, who's an ad shooter
Love
and
that one,
had
yeah.
pitched us like a personal project with her daughter.
Can you make that full screen? I would love to see that.
Oh my God, why do I forget
that
how
one's
to
beautiful.
do that?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
I don't actually know.
I forget. Isn't there?
Green bubble in the browser.
Oh right.
Yay.
Oh, but then I have to resize it. It's like an error.
But I love it.
How do I? Now I'm all messed up. But here,
Tech support.
it's all right.
support.
So this is Paris, but
Yeah.
it's like not.
Yeah.
Not the quintessential.
And
No.
this is the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
So if you've been to Paris, you know that this is at the top of the Eiffel
Yeah.
Tower, and
But that's not a typical
Way
thing
more
that you see.
interesting
Way more
photo than a
interesting.
photo of the Eiffel Tower,
then I think there's like
in my opinion.
here's her version. It's like about these girls who
Yeah.
are on this trip, and this is, and that's the view from the Eiffel Tower, but it's just more casual and
great.
human. This is more sort of fashion-y than we would have with these girls, but I mean, this is what Krista's known for, is sort of this really loose, really real vibe. This is like Montmartre, right? But like, it's kind of busted. It's kind of gray. But Paris is gray, like Paris isn't usually like, in the past couple days, we just posted a photo from there and it's like gorgeous and sunny and they just got a goal. But like, Paris is beautiful partly because it's, it has all this stone and it's gray there, and it makes
city.
for really, really gentle light, which is great for fashion.
Right.
It's fashion capital of the world. But yeah, these girls just really playful. I mean, those are those locks, right, on the bridge, and they're so famous, but instead it's about this moment here, and so we have that in the background. And then this is amazing. This is like, what's it called?
Wool.
Escargot.
Escargot. And then the face of like,
Yeah.
that's what it tastes like to a 6-year-old
Beautiful.
American or whatever.
That's gorgeous. Okay, so we have to start reviewing, but is there any final words on the selection you guys went through?
Well,
or-
the
'cause there's
final
a lot of
word is
beautiful-
we don't usually make our final edit for our magazine in 20 minutes.
Right.
So, we've kind of gone through our first pass, and you need to step back and take a break and come back to it maybe the next day.
Tune
We
in,
may-
tune in tomorrow
You might
for the
just keep
exciting
doing it.
episode.
I mean,
of-
Instead of
tune in
landscape.
when our India issue comes out. There you go.
All right, so
oh, wait.
we want to cut to my screen.
Okay.
So the name of the game is they submitted before and after photos using Lightroom CC. And we don't have to choose a winner today, but it would be great to go through and chat through what they did, any sort of ideas you have and feedback and
Okay.
positive.
So we're
Out
gonna
of
we're gonna
these-
give some critique,
Yeah, we're all gonna
creative
go.
feedback.
And how do you find these images?
This
Can I
is
go?
hashtag Adobe Live LR.
So we'll all do that so we can see.
Okay.
it at the same
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so let's go with the most
My eyes are
recent here. So this is before and after. Oh, someone cropped. Maybe someone thought about cropping now. Before and after. Captured this picture in Panama.
Where's
Okay.
the after? Oh, wait, so which is the before?
I think before is the first one,
Yeah.
and then after, when they cropped, seems like I see some sort of editing done on the.
I think that,
ones.
yeah. So that's interesting because I think that, so the idea to crop that out is probably a good impulse. I think that my creative, constructive feedback would be that I don't know, that it feels a little tight in there. The crop, as a result, the crop kind of feels tight. I don't know
Right.
I don't know that having that other taxi really
You have to
bothers me.
click on it and then go
You
know?
back and forth.
That's just me personally.
The original doesn't bother me either.
Yeah,
I kind of like
it's actually
seeing-
maybe is even better without the crop. I don't know. Sorry, what do you think?
Yeah, I
I think it's better without.
like
Yeah.
it without the crop.
Yeah.
All right, interesting.
Your initial impulse as the photographer was
Love
good.
that. Okay, so we've got.
Oh, that's a beautiful couple images.
Well,
Wow.
these aren't before and afters, but we can talk about them
Wow. Wow.
from India.
From
That looks
India.
pretty stunning to me.
Delhi.
Right. Great moments.
So are these guys related to the newspaper folks? Do you think?
Well, no. I mean, it's a different city.
Oh,
Looks like that was
people-
taken in Delhi.
We I've been looking at a lot of pictures from India recently. So we've sent a bunch of photographers there, and people read newspapers. Like, I think that's
Oh, yeah.
something
Still a
just
big
about
business
that
there.
it's
Yeah.
not everybody's reading the New York Times on their smartphone. So I think that's just like a little cue about the culture right there, and the fact that Tyson captured it, and Emily and the other photographers who went to a different region, I remember seeing that as well.
Wow.
So
What is your thought on black and white in this
What are my
instance?
thoughts? I don't know. I mean, because I don't see the regular version, I guess.
I know.
yeah,
I think-
it makes
I
me
think-
We should upload it.
I think
wonder.
I think
Yeah.
it's a good choice. I think
Yeah.
it looks like they're shooting in harsher light,
Mm-hmm.
and black and white is always like a nice tool in really bright, contrasty light because it looks good. Whereas in color, that contrast is sometimes really harsh.
Right.
Yeah.
So
All right.
we think you made good choices, but we don't.
Yeah, that looks like a beautiful photo.
Okay, so I feel like this one is the after.
Which one?
Oh, look!
Yeah.
So there we are.
That one's
talking
gonna
about-
win because
Oh.
it looks like
Your photo's
it's got
on
my
there.
photo in it.
Your
That's
photos on there.
clearly the
So
way.
I feel like that's the before
get my,
and that's the after. So
Yeah.
talk me through your thoughts on this.
Wow, it looks like an interesting treatment, like a pink, like
It's
a.
like infrared.
It's like a pink, something going on there
Yeah.
with the pinks. Which I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
Oh, no,
I shouldn't actually
no.
touch your
Oh, whatever.
your.
You're allowed.
No,
It's just this
no,
one.
but I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's this weekend I actually went and saw Seussical,
Oh.
the Dr. Seuss musical.
Musical.
Not
Is it very
not
like
the
this?
Broadway version, the one that was like in a bar where the audience participates. But that's beside the point. But they give you these like pink pom poms to throw when Horton throws the. We're getting really off topic now. It reminds me of that
That's
color.
great though.
The
we're
Horton Hears a
giving
Horror.
reference.
If anyone, Horton Hears a Who, if anyone can get this reference.
Oh.
When he has that
Yes.
like speck of dust on a little like a little poppy
Yes.
flower, and the monkey throws it into a sea of them.
I
It's-
don't remember.
It looks
I
like
see
that.
Yeah.
All right,
So, which is the adjusted and which
I think
is the
this
original?
Hey Lady K has this lighthouse in Cape Town.
Let's see another one.
I was just going in order.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we can. Well, oh, I see that one. We'll get
Okay.
there next. Here's
Alright.
the next
Emily
one.
wants to skip. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know we were.
We're editing as we go.
So, yeah, I think this one has been improved.
That seems like the after. Right?
Yeah.
It says after and before.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, after comes.
I was really confused because I was like,
Yeah.
how does your camera do that?
Right? Oh, crap.
Oops.
Backs out.
Oh, that's interesting. Where is that? Oh, in Dublin.
Interesting. All right, let's get to this lighthouse.
Wow. Okay.
Hello.
So
can
it looks like
see
you've
everything
brought,
now.
So
brought
I
the
want to be
shadows
there.
up.
Yeah,
I want to be there.
Yeah.
That's my first criteria.
beautiful.
That's good from a photo editor
I wanna be
perspective.
there.
The armchair traveler.
You
Is
can
that
get
what
Deb
you
to
called
Can I
it?
see
that.
the
That's good.
Can I see the before again?
Yes.
So yeah. So well, it's interesting because you've captured a really interesting time of day clearly because of you can kind of tell from the golden light. I don't know if that's a sunset or a sundown, but you're shooting at the right time of day, but your subject has obviously been, your subject's on the wrong side of the light in this case. So clearly the editing, you've brought up the shadows to bring that subject matter, give it better light. So I think that's probably the right
Yeah. That's,
choice in that situation.
That's fun.
I would say that next time try to have that on the other, like have that golden light on it, but you can't, you can't move the sun. Unfortunately, always, the way you want, but I think it's good.
Perfect.
Pretty.
It's good.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Let's see. This.
That's like very classic, like lifestyle light, where you have the glow of the
This one-
sunset and bring up everything in that.
That one doesn't
Yeah.
have a before and after. Let's see.
Katie.
Wow, what a beautiful place that is.
So I think that's after,
Okay, yeah.
and that's before.
Florida.
Wow. Well, I wonder what part of Florida that is.
I know, me
It's
too.
really mysterious and swampy.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of disoriented. I don't know if I'm looking into
Yeah.
I think we're looking at the sky through the trees.
through the mossy trees.
Well, no, I don't think we are.
No?
You looking down
Sorry.
into
Yeah.
water?
There's sky in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cloud.
There's a bird on a tree.
And a bird on a
limb.
tree.
And what else
It's
changed?
really beautiful.
up.
Oh, we cropped.
So
Brought
slight crop, and then
Shadows.
you brought the shadows up. I think in this case, you could have. It's beautiful. I think you could have just brought up the shadows only on the bird. That's probably how I would have approached it, just in some like selective adjustment, and just brought that bird more into the light.
Oh, nature reserve from Mel.
And because I like the
Nature reserve. Cool.
way that the rest of this looks.
Nature reserve where, Mel?
That's just a personal thing, but
Yeah,
I
tell
would
us.
get rid of this one dark spot that looks like a spider.
This
Bottom
Where?
left.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
thing.
it's just distracting and it like sends off the scale because you think it's a spider web.
Yeah.
So I would just
Interesting.
make it go away personally, but
What a mysterious place. I want to shoot there.
she said it's a nature
So
reserve.
you
We're
want
gonna-
to be there. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, I'd love to be there. Yeah.
Okay, let's see real quick.
Roatan. I like all these places, you
These
guys.
aren't-
This is awesome.
Are these
All over the world.
Is that before and after? Let's see. Oh,
Oh,
maybe
wow.
so. Yeah.
major zoom?
Wow. Very
Right.
good. Very good.
Oh,
How much more time do I have, guys? Just so I.
Have about 7 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So I think here that the most severe thing is the crop,
Grand Canyon
which you'd
National.
come here and just. So that I think that's a way better photo in my opinion.
I can see the
The
picture.
after
Is this which is the after?
is
The
that
bluer kind of
it's a
tone?
much tighter crop for one,
one's
and
the
then you can
after.
tell
Okay,
they've
got
done
it.
they've done some treatment to the tones. They brought out the pink and red hues and
Yeah.
blue hues which exist in the Grand Canyon. So I think that's
Yeah,
That's
great.
cool.
very good.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. Do
Your
we
eye
pick a
doesn't-
winner?
No, we can't.
Oh.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Right, the crop
That's gonna
one
happen
kinda
later. We just get
focuses
to
your
go
eye.
through them and chat.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a few more and then we're gonna.
Oh, there's an interesting crop on the next one.
The
Oh.
windsurfer.
Here's the original.
Oh,
Hello.
That's
Hello.
funny. That's hilarious.
that's
So
hilarious.
sometimes there's gonna be a guy
There's a good reason.
sleeping in your photo.
In an inner tube.
Yeah.
In an inner tube.
Well, and it
Okay.
depends who the photographer is or what the publication. So if you like wanted like the street photography vibe,
You leave them in.
leave them in. But if you're going travel and leisure, you gotta
Right.
cut them
It's
out.
kind of fun to see the
So
guy.
you know what? This is the very first photo we looked at
Yeah.
where that was cropped, and because it was like we're sort of trained to like
The taxi.
make it the
More
taxi
simple.
like you're supposed that's how you're supposed to do it. But I think
Not
this
always.
maybe is the same scenario where I actually like the photo.
With the
I
guy.
think I like the
I like it with the
photo
guy.
with the
The
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
I wish they backed up. I want to see
To
more of
me,
this guy.
But
This-
again, it depends on the end purpose of
Sure,
the, if
yeah.
this is a shot for windsurfing, a windsurfing brand or something, they would want you to take out the guy.
Right.
Would
It
they?
all,
Well, because
well, I don't know, I would imagine
Because you probably
for
need some license or
an
something.
ad or something, but
I think this one tells a more interesting story with the guy.
I like the guy.
You get a better understanding of where the photographer is standing.
I like the subtle World Cup references, too.
How's it going, everybody?
Croatia.
Oh, we have four. So
Well,
we
Cool
have
as
four more
Springs. Thanks,
posts to
Sarah.
review.
Okay.
Okay.
So here, let's see what's going on here. Before, I think. Yep, before and after. So a lot of change
Wow.
with the color.
Yeah. No, the sky is way more interesting and beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, this is one, Tyson, like with the bird, where you said you would like just bring up the bird. So this person kind of just brought up the sky, but not
Yeah.
the land.
It's tough because the land is in such a it's so much in the shadows that I don't know that there's really much you could do to bring it up, and if you did, you probably would lose. You might lose something.
Yeah.
Is this something where you could cut a bunch of that land? Potentially, like crop out.
Yeah.
Maybe depends
could.
on where you shot and if you gave more.
Yeah. You might try. Yeah, you might even try cropping even more, even down to
Yeah.
like a single or try to get just one or two trees
Hmm.
and see if you like that approach.
That's cool.
Oh, I mean, like the
The
black.
black foreground.
Yeah.
That's what I'm putting my hand.
I think you could. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have a lot of negative space, which I personally
Love.
love negative space, but you might want to come in even tighter.
All right, next one. Let's see here. Before, after. So
Sam is saying, please review my before and after. We'll have to go.
Before
After Sam.
We'll find you,
Gotta find
Sam.
Sam.
We'll find you, Sam.
Yeah, we'll find you, buddy. Okay,
What's yours?
So
so
where is this? This seems really interesting.
Yeah.
Elora
cool
Caves
location. Wow.
in India.
India, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Really interesting place.
man.
What is happening there?
I don't know. We brought a lot more saturation
Right.
into the image.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like grayed out.
Too
from the
maybe
flare.
too much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
For Tiny Atlas, we do err on the side of real color. Like ideally, we're going to colorful, beautiful places at the right time of day, so the light is amazing. But we try and show
Keep it
the
real.
world kind of like what it would look like on its best day,
maybe
so that when
it's a
people
new
show
photo.
up, they're not confused.
Refresh and see.
Right.
All right, I think this is last one. I'm trying to find you, Sam.
Well, there's new ones that have just been added. Yeah.
Here's
Sam
one.
Fierro.
Top is before, bottom is after.
I don't see Sam's
I
though.
don't see you, Sam.
Neo Cool Star.
I'll try to find Sam.
We'll find you. Oh, okay. Let's go to I think this is our last one. Oh, two more. This
Two more.
one and then
Okay.
the next.
There's
So this
some
is,
more.
thank you for putting these
See a
together.
bunch more.
The U.S.
Um,
Constitution in Boston by the aquarium.
Nice. Before and after. Not a whole ton is done, I don't think, to this
Yeah.
image.
No, but you needed to bring up you really couldn't see a lot of the detail in the boat, or even you almost missed the fact that there's another boat right in front of
Oh
it.
yeah, there you go.
So I'd say that's
Good choice.
a good choice. Yeah.
And then last one.
Jordan.
Are these bars?
What's
Are we in
happening
jail?
Are we
here?
in
Are we in
jail?
jail? Oh no.
Are you in jail, Jordan?
Jordan,
Yes.
if
Is
you
that
can hear this.
Alcatraz or?
Yeah, I want to
I wonder
know.
if that's Alcatraz. How many
It's
jails
brighter.
can you get into?
Well, the brighter helps, but
But maybe it is dark because it's it's a dark place.
yeah, the brighter is definitely better because
Yeah.
you can sort of have a better idea of what's going on. But we have questions.
We're
Jordan,
not sure where we are.
we want to know where we are.
I don't know if I want to be there.
Right.
So, which is not to say it's a bad picture, but for
Yeah.
a travel magazine, maybe.
Maybe for-
Depends on the.
Prison issue.
Do you want to get
Travel.
put in jail
I
while
don't-
you're traveling?
You guys can send Dan
Depends.
on that assignment.
Depends.
I'll
what's
stick to the
happening.
tropical
If
islands.
it's the
thank
only
you.
way for me to get away from my kids, I might want to go to jail.
Beautiful.
Oh, I see.
Anyways, thank you so much for coming. We're going to be here tomorrow again for landscape.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we will
hope
be
to see
here
You'll be here tomorrow
This
too?
afternoon.
Oh, you'll be here
In
later.
like a minute.
In a minute.
In a minute.
Can we have a snack
I'm gonna
first?
go. Yeah, I'm gonna go eat lunch. But anyways, thank you so much. We'll see you
Yeah, thank you.
tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Thank you.
you.